whatever it is. It's just about coming together as referees, talking as referees, and sort of agreeing what we should all be doing, what's the right thing for referees to do. So it's not specifically about individual rules. What I would ask is, I'm going to share a presentation, and again, with something we can share with everybody later if they just want to go through it at their own times, or in their own time. But the key things are, this is all based on a few things. First and foremost, the FIVB rules of the game, which we all know and have by our bedside, I hope. It's secondly, the FIVB casebook. And what the FIVB casebook is, it's literally a way of a document that answers typical questions that come up, right? So in a particular scenario, what is the right response to do? That type of thing. And then finally, a third document, the FIVB refereeing guidelines. Now, all these documents are on the FIVB website. If you haven't seen them, I would advise you at some stage to look them up. Bear with me a second till I figure out how to share my screen again. Here we go. Now, can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can, Alan.
Okay. So look, guys, as I said, it's a sort of an informal gathering. If somebody wants to shout out a question, but try and be sort of courteous, there's also a way on Zoom to put up a little hand or to put up a sticker. If you want to do that and ask your question at the end, that's another way of doing it. You can rest assured we're not doing a question or an exam at the end one, but we might do a few Q&As at the end just to make sure that Helen Cotter hasn't fallen asleep somewhere in the middle. So, look, we plow on, guys, with everything today. So what do we plan to go through today? Scenarios from this FIVB casebook. Any other scenarios or questions that you guys actually come up with, and we'll skip the refresher exam for now. These are documents you should all have, and if you don't, at least know where you get them. Rules of the game, guidelines and instructions, the FIVB casebook, and then finally the 2 Ireland documents, the referees guidelines and the competition rules. Everybody happy they know all those things?
Yeah.
So, if you don't know, there's the website to get the FIVB all right. So I'm going to, normally at this stage, I'd throw it out to you guys and I'd ask you for one word. So just want you to sit for 10, 20 seconds to yourself. And what I want you to think of is just one word that you think describes a good referee. Just pick one word to yourself and say to yourself, that's what I'd like somebody to say about me. Okay, take 10 seconds. Now, I'm sure most of you are going to come up with something, we'll probably think of honesty and, but there's more to being a good referee than simply that. So I'm just going to go through a few attributes, and hopefully the word you came up with is in this slot. So these are the words that I came up with: confidence, consistency, decisiveness, enjoyment and motivation, integrity, judgment, poise, and rapport. There's not an awful lot in there about the rules of the game, if you know what I mean. These are all the sort of soft skills we all have. But I just want to go through it for a few minutes. Just, can you see yourself in there? Can you see referees who referee you regularly in there? Confidence, right? Competent officials have confidence in themselves and their abilities. This self-confidence transcends any game or situation. Confident officials remain in control during adversity. Doesn't mean that they haven't experienced feelings of self-doubt, but they don't lose confidence in themselves just because they made a bad call or experienced other setbacks. Every official has games that he would rather forget, but confident officials don't let that undermine their genuine beliefs that they are good at what they do. Now, I think that qualifies every referee. Every referee's in that case. We've bad calls, bad games, but don't let that shake their confidence. Trust that we're good at what we do. Consistency. This to me is one of the big ones. If a referee is inconsistent, it causes trouble with the teams, typically, because they don't know what's coming next. Doesn't mean every referee has to be the same. I guarantee of all us referees, some of us are different. Some of us are stricter on handling. Some of us are stricter on discipline. Some of us are stricter on things like screening, etc., etc. That's fine. Teams know that and they'll adapt. But what is very hard to adapt is when a referee in themselves is inconsistent. So players and coaches expect officials to be consistent. So their decisions should be the same in identical or similar circumstances, and they should apply the rules equally to both opponents. Inconsistency is frequently criticized and upsetting to coaches and players. Experience has shown that a lack of consistency creates these and other problems. Players are always guessing what is allowed and what is not. Coaches become frustrated and less trusting of officials. Officials try and even up calls, thereby punishing the team for previous officiating errors. If an official ignores a foul one time, but then calls a foul for the same behavior later in the game, athletes and coaches become confused. This uncertainty often results in anxiety, frustration, anger, and eventually negative physical behavior by those who perceive themselves to be cheated. And I think I'd hope everyone would agree with that. I won't ask for a poll, but hopefully you do. Decisiveness. This is another one I'll keep talking to anybody who's working with me. An official decision should occur simultaneously with the actions observed or as soon thereafter as possible. Does not mean you should make all calls without hesitation. You might need to take a slight pause to comprehend what you have seen, but too long of a pause gives the athletes and coaches the impression of uncertainty, and they are more likely to question a delayed call. Judgment calls are not subject to formal protest, therefore you can often avoid controversy by making quick and decisive rulings. The tighter decision, the more important decisiveness becomes. Okay? Enjoyment and motivation, not something we probably thought of. We probably don't think of, am I enjoying this? But it is important for referees. Top officials, immensely. This sense of enjoyment and fun is strongly tied to a positive mental attitude and feeling of energy. Good officiating requires a lot of hard work, dedication, and practice. All this leads to a high level of motivation, which is closely tied to enjoyment. Okay? Integrity. Again, this is something I hope everybody would have thought of. Integrity, honesty, whatever you want to call it, refers to calling a game in an unbiased, honest manner, regardless of the reactions of players, coaches, and spectators. The duration of the match, the score, previous calls, or any other potential sources of influence. The best safeguard for maintaining your integrity is couched in the adage, call them as you see them. It is extremely important to protect your integrity both on and off the court, although you probably are aware of your responsibilities while officiating. You should equally be concerned about your integrity off the court. Just put a little bit of thought into that one. Again, it's just if somebody sees a referee sitting by the sidelines shouting or giving out about calls, it doesn't show good integrity, good perception. Think about that. But in the game, just call them as you see them. Judgment. This is one really about the rules. Good judgment begins with a thorough and complete understanding of the rules and regulations governing a particular sport. Once established, rule knowledge can serve a guide for determining the legality of play. Then sound judgment gained through experience will allow you to meet the demands of a variety of officiating situations. The official who continues to study the rules and applies officiating experience towards personal improvement will likely become competent. When officials describe instances when they exercise good judgment, they invariably find they were totally focused on the game, unaware distractions are able to block them out, unconcerned about previous calls and the subsequent reaction from those involved. And finally, this doesn't apply to everyone. It's probably just me I'm talking about here. This is about poise. Sport competition is generally exciting, and the action is often fast-paced and rapidly changing. And in addition, because of the importance people in our society place on sports, it is not unusual for emotions and tensions of players, coaches, spectators to run high, especially during the initial and later stages of the game. An official must remain calm and poised regardless of what is happening. Although you cannot necessarily control the emotions of others, you are expected to be in control of your own emotions, no matter what the circumstances. Finally, rapport. Again, this is not one you probably thought of, but it is important. This is the quality of relating effectively to others. Good rapport with others is desirable in any line of human endeavor, and perhaps even more important in officiating. Officials must try to establish good rapport with both coaches and players. As an official, you are not trying to win a popularity contest, but you are not trying to make enemies either. Officials can improve rapport skills by treating players and coaches with courtesy and respect, and you should expect the same treatment in return. Okay, listen, I sort of flew through those a little bit. would everybody more or less agree with that? Is there anything in it that somebody would have it or haven't come across? Somebody, if you don't want to make a comment, great, but you don't really have to. No, we're happy to go on. Vinny, would you say just on the international scene that decisiveness is probably one of the things that's beaten into you with a big stick?
Yeah, that would be the one that we have more issues in the beginning. But yeah, we had this exercise in the last course I was in, and I was attending, and that was what we most talked about was decisiveness.
Yeah. So look, just read those comments in your own time. Just say to yourself, look, forget the rules. This isn't about, rule 3.2.2. This is just how you are as a person, how you react with others, how you blow the whistle, all the soft skills, but these can make and break a referee. Okay, so look, we'll move on to different things. Now, one of the things that keeps coming up is questioning the referee. I'm sure as referees, this has come up numerous times. So we're going to come up with what is the proper response by the first referee if a captain constantly questions first referee's decision. Now, again, I'd just like you to think back to a game you're in where the captain or the coach or player is constantly coming up to you, right? He's shouting at you, he's questioning this, questioning that. I'm sure we've all come across it. It's not new. Every player, every referee comes across it. So the question is, as a referee, what should we do about it? So first of all, let's go to the case book. Sorry, this is first of all, what do you think? So is the captain allowed to constantly or frequently question referees' decisions? What is meant by question? What is even meant by that? Question the decision. And when is enough is enough? Okay. So the official answer is beyond the limits of rule 5.1.2. I know that sounds official, but that's the one that says what a captain can ask for. They can ask for a timeout, they can ask for a substitution, they can check the team's rotations. That's it. Outside those limits, the referee should warn the captain with no penalty, as stated in Rule 21.1. If the behavior continues, the game captain should be sanctioned for rude conduct with a red card, point and service to the opponents. Okay, there's the rules. So what do people think? Do you think we take too much questions, comments from captains? Everybody happy?
Well, Tom here. I think we take a lot of comments from non-captains, like coaches and other players on the court. My experience, anyway.
Okay. Just now, again, sorry guys. Just one thing about this is, don't suddenly go away if you're refereeing. I know you won't be refereeing tomorrow or anything, but at your next game, don't feel that you have to be a different referee from what you hear me saying or Vinny saying or another referee saying. You have to figure it out for yourself. But absolutely, I agree with Thomas there. There are too many people talking to the referee. Doesn't happen when I referee because I don't allow it. I will, as soon as anybody other than the game captain says anything to me, first thing I will do is call up the captain and say, stop. If he says anything to me again, I'm going to card him, right? And they don't. Typically, once you lay down the marker, I find they don't. So as a referee, I'll be saying to you, be a little bit stricter on that. Stop people shouting at you. Stop people talking to you. You have your cards. Don't be afraid to use them. And let people know you'll use them. That's the big thing. Any other comments? Anybody want to throw in a comment there? No?
My experience there is like, if another player comes to talk to me, like, as you said, if you stop right away, they won't come back. And also, if you don't answer, if you don't engage with them, they won't come back. So if you stop them right there, like, if you do that the first time, like and eventually, like we have a small league, like at least here in Ireland, eventually they will know how you referee, and most likely they won't be coming to you.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else want to add anything? Okay, we'll move along. So this is just in case you're sitting there wondering, well, what could I do? What can a captain do? So the question is, how does the game captain legally and politely request a question of to ask if a line judge should signal the fault? This is just, and I know it's stupid because we don't have line judges, but you'll know what I mean. And the casebook actually says, the rules actually say, at the end of the rally, the game captain may raise one hand to request an explanation for the interpretation of the judgment. first referee must honor this request. So that's it. It's not shouting from the far side of the court. It's not roaring at you. It's not running to the line judge. The captain can come up to you, raise their hand, and ask a question of you. Okay. If it's a fair question, answer them. If it's just criticism, ignore them. Send them away. Okay. Questioning the referee. Okay. So again, just a little one here. This is just what can the captain do. So what he can ask is, look, you probably know all this, and this is taken straight from the rule book. You can ask for an explanation on the application or interpretation of the rules and submit the requests or questions of their teammates. If the game captain, now this is very important, so please listen to this. If the game captain does not agree with the explanation of the first referee, they may choose to protest against some such decision. Apologies. Where was I? And immediately indicate to the first referee that they reserve the right to record an official protest on the score sheet at the end of the match. Now we'll come back to that point later, but that is hugely important. So what can they ask? Authorization. Captain can ask to change all or part of the equipment, verify the positions of the teams, to check the floor, the net, the ball, etc. And finally, in the absence of the coach, to request timeouts and substitutions. And that's it. That is what the captain can do in relation to interacting with the officials. And again, I would be strict on that. Any questions, comments?
No.
No? Everybody happy? Great. Flow on. Now, this is the reason I was trying to be so specific about that one, right? And this is something I think that keeps coming up with referees and teams. If a captain or a coach wants to make a comment on the score sheet after the match, must you allow it in every case? And if so, what type of comment would you allow? So I want you to think about that for a minute, right? You're finished the match, you're down off the stand, you've shaken hands, or some of the players might have shaken hands with you. Then the captain comes over and says, referee, I thought your refereeing was awful, and I want to put down that you're not a good referee. Now, are you going to allow that go on the score sheet?
No.
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 Anybody want to say yes? No? No. Okay, fair enough, right? So look, it's a little bit extreme, but the point of it is still, no matter what, and I'm going to go on here, this is where it's important. The captain may, when it has been notified in due time to the first referee, confirm and record on the score sheet an official protest regarding the application, the referee's application or interpretations of the rules. Okay. The first part of that is they must have told the referee at the time of the incident that they reserve the right to protest at the end of the match. That is sacrosanct, right? So if the fact that after the match, the captain comes up and says, referee, in the first set, something happened and I didn't like what you said or did, and I want to protest that. If he didn't say to me at the time, I was wished to reserve the right to protest that, it is not going on the score sheet, to my mind. Everybody happy with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Just a question. Just a question on that. Who actually writes the protest? Is it the captain or is it the scorekeepers that write it physically?
It is the referee.
It's a referee. Okay.
The referee should write that in the comments box. So, because the captain will go off on a tangent and say sort of, the referee didn't know that, didn't see that the ball hit or whatever it is talking about. All the referee has to put down is captain teammate questioned the referee's understanding or application of the rule relating to substitutes.
Okay.
That's
Got
it. You don't have to relate the whole story, the whole incident. That's for a later date. All you want to know is officially making a protest about the referee's application or interpretation of a specific rule. Full stop. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, so I've just one or two examples here. What sort of protest would you allow? So, yes to a genuine query on the rules, right? Let me say, I've given you an example here, right? Supposing the referee permitted an exceptionally substitute player in set one. So this is a player who was injured, etc., and he was exceptionally substituted, comes off in set one, and as a referee, I now allow him to come back on set three. So I would accept where the captain says, if I allowed that as a referee, I would allow the referee to, or a captain to protest that. okay? Because I obviously, my application of the rule is questionable in this case. Similarly, this is a little one where the referee called a double touch on our receiver serve. This is in the captain's words. And when queried, I said to him, a double touch is never allowed. Okay, think about that one for a minute, right? I then said the wrong thing. So he is allowed to question my application of that rule. Why? Because a double touch can be allowed in certain circumstances. On the first hit, right? We'll talk about that later. Is everybody happy with that? So
Yeah.
by me saying the words, a double touch is never allowed, it does raise question about my understanding and application of that rule. Those two okay?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. But certainly, and no to any of these, no to any comments on the performance or standard of the official, no to any comments on impartialities, no to any comments on judgment calls, i.e. balls in or out, touches off the block, handling faults, and no to any comments if the captain did not at the time of the incident advise the referee of their intention to formally protest at the end of the match. No to any of those. Now, this is an opportune, so take a scenario, at the end of the match, captain comes up and says, you were useless, there was 10 line balls that were in that you called out, and I want to protest it. I'll say, fine, it's not going on the score sheet, but I then take the opportunity to tell them that they can, of course, write in, if they feel strongly enough, write into competitions and referees protesting the outcome of the match and giving their reasons. Anybody's allowed to do that. Doesn't matter whether they sign the score sheet, don't sign the score sheet, whatever happens. Teams are allowed to write into competitions to referees and protest something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they'd want to have a very good reason for it, I suspect, but that's not our call. That's not our problem. So it doesn't go on the score sheet, but if they want to write in separately, they can. Is everybody happy with that?
Yep.
Denise, you going to ask a
Of course,
question?
Alan. Of course, Alan, I'm happy with that.
Great. Once you don't have to go through all the score sheets in the office, I presume.
Absolutely, Alan.
Okay. So anyway, so that was a little attempt at humor there. Anyway, so
Was I the old lady in the picture?
but you can be either one of them.
Thanks very much.
Okay. So here's a scenario now. What if the captain's protest is correct, right? And I don't mean post the event. I mean during the match, right? So if the captain requested clarification during the match, and it turns out the question is valid and the official's decision was not correct, as a referee, just think about this for a second. Think of a scenario, the captain has come up to you and said, ref, you've given that point to the other team because you whatever it is, right? And it turns out he's actually correct. We've made a bad call. I've made a bad call. What do we as referees do? Right? You know what I'm getting to. Can a referee change their decision?
In that case, I would have replayed the point, but that's me.
Okay, interesting. Replay the point. Why replay the point? Because something happened. Either it was a fault or it wasn't a fault.
So because I blow the whistle too early, then I suppose.
Sorry, absolutely. If you intervene when you shouldn't and you've stopped a rally, you've stopped from winning, that's fine. Then you must do a replay. I'm thinking of a scenario where, just say I called a team for a backcourt attack, right? Mm-hmm. So I've given the point to team A, then team B come up and say, oh, what was that for? And I say, because he's a backcourt attacker. And they say, well, he isn't. He's a front court attacker. And I say, oops, my mistake, right? So if the ball had hit the floor, then I have to give them the point because it was a validly won. You with me? Okay, just move on. We'll answer this one now. So the question here is the referee's decision final or may they change their decision based on a team's protest? Yes, the referee may change their own decision if they become aware of their mistake before the next service. Okay. But remember, teams are not allowed to protest against normal referee decisions, i.e. balls in, out, touches, etc. So it should only occur if additional information clarity has been provided by the captain or other official. So I'm not saying that because the team comes up and protests, you change your decision. If you saw the ball in, if you saw it out, that's your call, stick with it. What I'm talking about is, and I have an example there, a backcourt team player from team A, don't worry too much for team A, a backcourt blocks, attacks at the net successfully, and the point is awarded to team A by me. However, when the team take up their position for the next serve, I noticed that the player was in fact a backcourt player and should have been penalised for a backcourt attack. Now, at that stage, because I haven't yet started the next rally, I can reverse my decision and give the point back to team B.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's go ahead, sorry. And
We're just agreeing with you.
yeah, it's only if other information comes to light, right? I'm not saying maybe you need to take time to think about it. The example I've used there is a typical one. You suddenly realize that player number 3 or number 7 you were looking at is standing in the middle of the back row, and therefore he's a backcourt player. Then yes, you can penalize him.
Does the same thing applies to ins and outs in case that I'm standing on my stand and there's a second ref and I blow out, but then he comes to me and he says, "Oh no, you're definitely in." Then can I change my mind as well?
Sorry,
Or
who came to you? Who came to you?
The second referee, he's saying to me, because the ball was on his side, and he says, "Oh, I saw it in," and I wasn't sure, for instance. So it's kind of cold.
In short, yes, absolutely. If the second referee comes to you and gives you additional information, you can change your decision. Now, as a referee, as an instructor referee, what I would be saying to you is, as when the ball lands, the first thing you do is blow your whistle. You may immediately say to yourself, "I saw that ball in," but before you make a signal, you look to your second referee and see what are they doing. Are they making a signal? And try and link it with them before you make the call. I know it's easier said than done, and maybe the second referee looks away at that time. But in an ideal world, I'm sure Vinny would say this, you never make a signal without looking at your first referee and lines people if they're there. Have a look at them, see what are they doing, then make your signal.
Okay.
Anyway, but the principle of it is right. If the second referee comes over with additional information, yes, you can change your mind. But before the next service, once service goes on, that's it. We've moved on. Forget about it. Okay, jump in, guys, if anybody wants to do. Now, this is one that comes up, unfortunately, too often. After the match is over, right? So the match is over. Can or should a player be sanctioned after the match is over? Think about that for a second.
They can.
Yes, of course.
They can and they should and they must. If it happens, you as a referee have to deal with it. You have to, right? So here's a scenario. After the match is over, one team captain showed very unsportsmanlike behavior towards the first referee. What is the correct procedure of the first referee? The player must still be sanctioned in some way. So while the match is finished and the result can't be changed, obviously, any sanction of a yellow or red card can't impact the score or the result, obviously. However, the behavior of the team captain must be reported to the competitions and our referees commissions, and the details of the misconduct recorded in the remarks box on the score sheet. Depending on the seriousness, a may be more suitable. A simple example there is if supposing the score sheet has already been signed and distributed, and then something is said or done or whatever it is, at that stage then it would be by way of a separate report or an email. Volleyball Ireland has a range of sanctions at its disposal, including suspension from fixtures, future matches or fines. But if they don't know about a player's misbehavior, they can't deal with it. So guys, please, and the same applies if you're out shopping in Aldi on a Friday night and a player comes up to you and says, "Oh, you were fucking useless at that match last weekend." Again, that's not acceptable. You don't have to put up with that. Okay? A little bit extreme, I know, apologies. Okay, keep going. Everybody happy with that?
One question more. Can I have one question more?
Yes, sorry, who's asking?
It's about, it's about when the match is finished, how long it lasts when the match is finished. After signing the score sheet, it's all done, yes? So we cannot change anything. We are only talking when the players are on the court.
No, okay. So match is over. You've blown the whistle for the result. You're down off the stands. You've shaken hands. You walk over to the score table. Now, at that stage, the scorekeeper will still be doing their final work, totting up the sums, etc. Anything that happens at that up to that point,
yes,
you can still issue a red and yellow card and note it in the comments or the comments box, etc. If, however, you've signed the score sheet, both team captains have come up and signed the score sheet, and you as a referee have taken a photocopy or a picture of it, and you've given out the copy to the winners, etc. If something happens after that point, then you can't obviously change the score sheet. So all you can do is submit a separate report. Is that okay?
Okay, exactly. Yeah.
But it is
Yes.
important, guys. If it happens, you have to do something with it. It is not acceptable that players get away with treating referees like that. Absolutely not.
Alan, I have one more question
Yeah.
for you. In the normal times when usually we were shaking hands, let's say that one of the player wouldn't shake our hand, would that still be kind of not sporty behavior or?
No, the rules actually say that it is only the captain must shake hands with you after the match. Now, I would actually insist on
Yes.
that. No matter how annoyed the team with me, if the captain, if they all walk off, I will insist by blowing my whistle, and I will make sure the captain comes back to shake my hands. Otherwise, I will consider that unsportsmanlike behavior. However, the rest of the team do not need to shake your hands. So if they don't, they don't. Let them go. Does that answer the question? Now, and again, guys, just to be clear on this, I don't want anyone to go out tomorrow thinking this is brilliant. Now I'm going to give yellow cards left, right, and center. He said you have to find your way in this world. Again, it's really, as Vinny says, it's more about when I go into a hall, when Vinny goes into a hall, I know when Helen and DC go into a hall, players know they're going to get a card if they misbehave. So we don't see as much misbehavior maybe as some of you. So it's important that you let them know at an early stage that you will issue a card if you have to. And then always follow up on it. If it's warranted, follow up with a card. Okay. Now, we're just moving slightly on to coaches, right? So
Sorry,
coaches. Sorry, yeah, Vinny.
Yeah, no, would you mind just talk a little bit about sanctions in between sets? So, like, what's the procedure? Because it happened in the club, and it happened when I was refereeing outside Ireland as well. And even like real experienced referees, they sometimes don't know what to do. So, would you mind?
So the question here is, right, so we'll just say after set one, right, one of the teams is annoyed at the referee, maybe they didn't like whatever happened, but they change ends, etc., etc. In between the sets, one of the players or the captain or somebody on the team says something to the officials or says something to the referee or kicks a water bottle across the court, anything like that. They still have to be penalized by an appropriate card. Yellow, red, maybe more than that if it's warranted. Now, because the second set hasn't started, you can't actually do anything immediately. But any cards or any sanctions applied in between the sets apply to as soon as the second set starts. Okay, so just think about that. So really, what I would do is, if I'm a referee and you as a player, I'll use you in as example, Vinny, because you said it. So as Vinny is going round under the net after set one, he says something to me, geez, you're the worst referee I've ever seen, etc., etc. That's fine. I'm not going to stop him there and then. I'll allow him to walk on. I'll allow them have their 3 minutes in between the set. When I call the players back onto court, the first thing I do is I will call over the captain of Vinny's team and I will issue my card in front of him. I would say, right, that's it. That's your yellow or red card. If there's a point, then they now start the second set 1 point down. I know some of the players might be looking and saying, what's that for? We haven't even started the second set yet. It's for what happened in between the set.
Thank you.
Everybody happy with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Vinny, does that explain it?
Oh, yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, thank you.
It did happen. It did happen in a match. And again, the cards were, I think my relative, the cards were issued, but the penalty point wasn't issued in the second set. So it's unfair. A penalty point, I can't remember the specifics, but they should have been 1 point down before, at the start of the second set.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Sorry, guys. I know this. I'm starting with the bad stuff. This is all about the discipline. Not every teams need a big stick. Most teams are fine. It's just the odd teams need a little bit of behavior. Didn't happen like that in my day. Anyway, scenario 2.
How long have we got?
How long have you got, lads?
I stand by my reputation. I was never sent off officially. Okay, coaches, right? Coaches and what they can say. So I want to think for a minute. What can a coach do or say in a match? Just, you don't have to answer. Think about it yourself. Okay, are coaches permitted to talk to the second referee during the match about decisions or protests?
No.
No.
No. Absolutely correct. No, they are not allowed comment. Okay. This is, and these are taken straight from the rule book, guys. So I'm not giving you my interpretation. These are straight from. Only the game captain is authorized to speak to the referees to request explanations. The coach is not authorized to do so. Okay. Again, be strict on it, guys. Be strict on, particularly if they're showing. If you should watch YouTube at times. I don't know if everybody does. You will see that if the coaches, they love throwing down clipboards and whatever they have in their hand, big gestures. The referees will cut the knees off them at any show of disrespect or contempt. Look at it in YouTube. The referees take no messing from them. Now, but I'm going to ask you another question here about coaches, right? Are there times when it's acceptable, perhaps, and I'm giving an example, if a team is confused and only the coach understands, can the second referee take time to explain it to the coach, e.g. positional problems, substitutions, etc.? But it is possible, but it should be clarification and explanation, not a debate or discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll give you a simple example. Sometimes you might see where the referee or the second referee calls a positional fault. We'd say where player 3 and 6 are in the right position when the ball is being served. So the ball will be served, the referees will call a positional fault. The players might be looking at you like, what was that about? I've no idea. You'll show them 3 and 6 wrong. But if they don't rectify themselves, then the next point, same things happen. There's a serve, immediately it's a rotational fault, positional fault, and so on. At some stage, you have to say, if the players don't get it, I think a good second referee should say it to the coach and say, look, coach, these two players, they're in the wrong positions. They need to move. Not a debate, not a discussion, not should they, shouldn't they, they're wrong. And let the coach actively involved. Does that make a bit of sense?
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah,
otherwise, and I've seen it happen. Otherwise, it's a case of 3, 4, 5 serves and suddenly 3, 4, 5 points in a row. It's not good. It's not good for the game. It's not good for referees. So if a team don't get it, maybe just let the second referee have a quick word with the coach to say, look, guys, coach, those two players need to move around or change around or whatever.
But Alan, don't you, if you call a rotational fault like that, don't you have to put them into the correct positions before the next serve? You
Correct.
have to.
No.
You should rectify the rotation.
You should rectify the rotation. You don't let it go on and on and on, as in 1, 2, 3, 4 on the same rotational fault. After, it's your job to put them in to tell them where they're wrong.
Sorry, if the rotational order is wrong, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yes, it should be corrected. But if a player is then stepping out of position, and I mean, the backcourt setter in 3 and 6, if they're just then constantly standing in the wrong position and they're looking at you blankly, I think in that case, DC, you've tried to put them back in order, but they just keep stepping back out of it. That might be a time to just say to the coach.
Yeah, I think you would. You'd have to tell them what they're doing wrong because you know what I mean. They're going to do the same thing again. I don't think that would be fair at all. Yeah,
but I have seen it happen. I have seen it where the players are left in the incorrect position, and next thing, second serve, rotational fault, third serve, rotational fault.
Oh, no.
It looks ridiculous.
It does. I don't agree with that at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
can I, by experience, if
here's
it's a
just
rotation,
a quick pointer, right? Sorry. What if the coach and captain are the same person? Just remember this: if on court as captain, they can speak to the referees, but once they go off as a coach, they can't. Everybody happy with that?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, here's just a little bit, and this is more the art of refereeing. The second referee told the coach not to talk with or distract the scorer. You know yourself, occasionally coaches will be up to the second referee. Who's next to serve? Is number 2 the right server? How many timeouts have I left, etc., etc. So the second referee is entitled to say to him, look, coach, stop. Don't be interfering with the score while they're trying to do their work. Okay, but again, it should be done informally by the second referee. There's no real reason to get the first referee involved unless it's something that's sort of criticism or debate or whatever it is. But if it's just the second referee saying to the coach, look, coach, ask me if you need to know how many timeouts you have, etc., etc. Don't be shouting at the scorer. Okay, just a little bit of the art of refereeing. Okay, guys, we're going to move on to just playing the ball now. Now, this is very hard when we don't actually, it would be great if we were in a gym We could spend hours on this one. So you're going to have to bear with me some extent on this. I'll assume we're all volleyball players, so we know what I'm talking about when I say things, right? So, and again, these are sort of word for word. So these are important words. So in playing the ball, it is emphasized that only the faults that are seen are to be called. The first referee must only look at the part of the body that makes contact with the ball. In their judgment, they should neither be influenced by the position of the player's body before and or after playing the ball, nor by the noise of the contact. The FIVB rules of the game and refereeing commission insists that referees should permit overhand finger contact or any other contact that is legal according to the rules. Now, that's the wording of it. We all aspire to that, but I'm sure we all have our own little, what sort of looking for, our little perspective on what we look for, right? And I must admit, I'll give you my own personal impression. I do watch for players, particularly we talk about the setter who's going to overhand set the second ball. I do watch their body shape before they contact the ball, right? If their hands are down below their chest and they're going to try and volley it there, may not be a fault. But if I see their hands very, very low, I'll watch it extra careful, because there is a strong possibility it will be a fault, in my opinion, right? Doesn't mean it is, and you can't say because you volley the ball down from your waist, it's a fault. It might well be, but you can't use those words. So just think about that yourself. I don't know if you all have something similar. Do you watch the setter's hands? Do you watch their feet contact? Do you watch the body movement? Again, you cannot use anything to tell you it's a fault other than what you see yourself, okay? Some people, I know there was an old thing that if the ball spins, it has to be a fault. Again, you can't say that. It might be an indication that the contact wasn't clean, but if you haven't seen a double contact, you can't call it. But it might well, and we all react to sound. Let's face it, we all hear big slap off the hands. We probably say, oh, geez, what was that? If I saw the contact, the double touch, the big sound might reinforce my view that it wasn't a clean contact. But if I wasn't looking at it, the sound alone cannot make me call that. Okay, happy?
Yeah.
Now, just the big thing here in playing the ball is a double touch and a lift or a throw, right? It's important that you understand the difference between the two. Now, I know you might think you do, and I'm sure we all do in our own world, but I want to just talk to it for a second. So a thrown ball involves two playing actions. First, catching, and then throwing or releasing the ball. While playing the ball means that the ball rebounds from the contact point. Sorry. The referee must pay attention to the steadiness of the touch, particularly when a feint attack tip is used. Changing the direction and the placing of the ball. So if you're tipping the ball and you change the direction, you have to pay extra attention. During an attack hit, tipping is permitted. The ball is not caught or thrown. Tipping means attack of the ball completely over the net, executed gently with one hand or fingers. The first referee must watch closely to tips. If the ball after this tip does not instantly rebound, but is accompanied by the hand or is thrown, it is a fault and must be penalized. So look, again, what do I mean by that? Again, you have to watch the contact with the ball at all times. Watch it. Is there two actions? Does the ball sit in their hands, stop for a millisecond, and then it's released? That could well be a throw. It's two actions. You catch it, and then you release it. The ball should rebound from the fingers. Okay? It's hard to show it, yeah, and don't even try and think this is going to change the way you referee. Do what you're always doing. But the important thing is watch the contact every time. Watch the hands, in, out, or does it rebound? Okay? There are 4 different cases when the team has what's called a first hit. Okay? In 4 different cases, the team has a first hit. Can anyone tell me what they are? We'll talk about it later.
So serve, attack, off the block, and
so receive to serve. Go on, Thomas. Receive to serve.
Off the block.
Which block?
When you're defending, and it's the block, right?
Off your block or their block?
Your block.
Off your block. So receive and serve off your own block.
And attack, obviously.
Receipt of an attack. That's 3. Keep going.
And then not attack, just the normal ball goes over just like a pass over the net.
You were doing so well. You got 3 out of 4, Thomas, there.
I can come up with a 4th one.
Anybody? You actually staggered it, believe it or not, right? There's 2 from the blocks. There's one a ball coming off your own block, and the other one is a ball rebounding off your opponent's block. So there, we'll talk about them in a minute, but there are the 4 times when you can double hit on the first contact. Receipt of serve, receipt of an attack hit, a ball off your own block, and a ball off your opponent's block. On any of those occasions, a double hit is allowable. Okay, it is permissible in these 4 cases for there to be a double contact, but never a catch or a throw. Again, that is important, guys. Never a catch or a throw. That is never allowed. You sometimes see people, particularly on receipt of serve, they'll take the ball down around their knees. They'll try and volley it. Again, to my mind, in a lot of cases, they're lifting it and throwing it. You have to judge it for yourself. It should be taken overhand. Okay. Now, these are just a little anomalies in this, but I want to go through them anyway. In accordance with the spirit of international competitions and to encourage longer rallies and spectacular actions, only the most obvious violations will be whistled. Therefore, when a player is not in a very good position to play the ball, the first referee will be less severe in the judgment of ball handling faults. For example, the setter running to play the ball are forced to make a very quick action to reach the ball in order to set. The players are forced to run and make very quick actions to play a ball after it is rebounded from the block or from another player. The first team contact may be freely made, except if the player catches or throws the ball. Okay, so what that is saying is that there are times when you can be less severe, I suppose is a right way of saying it. But it's a difficult one. I wouldn't encourage you to think this way, but there are times when they use the example there, the setter running to play the ball or make a very quick action. You can be a little bit more marginal in the call there. I think the expression is keep the ball flying. They don't want the referees to be whistling every rally. It doesn't help us as referees. It brings in an element of subjectivity into it, which I don't like. But there are times when you can be less severe in the ball handling faults. But again, I wouldn't be saying that to people. I wouldn't be encouraging it. Just you yourself can give that little bit of leeway. I was refereeing a match at one stage, an international match, and I actually got great credit after the match. Somebody came up to me and said, said that in the ball in that rally that you didn't call a double touch on, it was brilliant because it allowed the game to keep going. That was a brilliant call. I looked at him and said, what? I didn't see a double touch. What are you talking about? And I hadn't seen it. But anyway, he thought I was brilliant because I didn't call it. But anyway, so look, it's a little bit of subjectivity. It's important we keep the games going, keep the ball flying. But so call it as you see it. But at times you can give a little bit of leeway on it. Okay, here's just a little one. Can a ball be, it keeps coming up, can a ball be caught and thrown as part of a block? Now by that I mean, in volleying or passing, we're saying it can never be caught or thrown, but as part of a blocking action. Can a player catch the ball here, move his hands across here, and then drop it down? Okay, ask yourself, what do you think? I know you might say it doesn't happen much in our league, or it couldn't happen, but when you get to an international level, when you have players like this, they could literally catch the ball, move it 3 feet across, and then drop it down. Okay, is that allowed? No, it is not. Simple as that. The ball can still never be caught or thrown. It can be redirected or rebounded to the floor. And the example is, a blocker redirected the ball to the floor to the opponents. Is this legal? It depends on whether the ball is caught or thrown, in which case it's a fault, rather than rebounding, which it's no fault. It is legal to block the ball and direct it back to the opponent's court, but the illegal contact of catch can and should be whistled during blocking. Now, does everybody know what I mean by that? So they actually catch the ball, move it over, and then drop it down, if you know what I mean. It should never be allowed. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'll keep going until somebody throws up a hand.
Sorry, Alan, I have a question about that one.
Of course.
What would you call for that if that happened in a match? Like, what would you call?
It's a lift. It's a lift and a throw. It's the same. I can't tell you that. It's the same as a lift, as if they caught it under their hand and lifted it up.
Okay, great.
Same fault. As I said, guys, don't be going looking for this all of a sudden. If it's depending on the level you play, it mightn't happen. But if you do referee in Premier games where you do have some 6'6" or 6'8" guy or girl who can do that, you might have to watch it. But typically in normal matches, it doesn't happen. But just be aware, you still can't do it. Okay, here's a one again, and this is where it's very important. This is one sometimes referees create trouble for themselves by saying something like, you can't play the ball underhand palm off, right? Or you can't scoop the ball, right? Certainly you can't scoop the ball, but can the ball be played underhand and palm up? Ask yourself this question now, right? Question, can a player legally hit the ball with the palm of one hand up? And I'm talking about a ball that's just about to hit the floor. So can you put one hand under it and hit it up?
Yeah.
The answer is yes, you can.
Yeah.
The hit must be judged by the quality of the ball contact, i.e. is it a soft or hard rebound, or whether or not the ball was caught and or thrown. Sorry. The first referee must not be too hasty in whistling this play unless he can clearly show it is caught and or thrown. So what all I'm trying to say is here, there are times the referees will say something like, but you can't play the ball underarm, hand up, or palm up, which is not correct. You can actually. Go back to my original example. You can't say you can never volley the ball from around your knees. It's unlikely you can do it and do it properly, but you cannot say it's a fault because the rules do not say it that way. Okay, same as this. So don't say you can't play the ball hand up, because you can if it's a good enough contact. Okay, move on. Team's first touch. This is the one we talked about a few minutes, Thomas. During the first hit, so this is an example, during the first hit, the ball rebounded from one arm to the other and then onto the chest of a player during one action and without being caught or thrown. First referee allowed the game to continue. Is this correct? I think we've already talked about it. Yeah, the decision of the first referee was correct. First hit cases in which successive contacts are allowed, reception of the service, reception of an attack hit, reception of a ball blocked by one's own team, reception of a ball blocked by the opponent. Now, just one point here in relation to point 2 there, reception of an attack hit. And I don't want to get over technical here as to what an attack hit is. An attack hit can be anything. It can be a spike, it can be a volley, it can be a dig, it can be a kick. Effectively, any ball coming from your opponent's court, with the exception of the serve, is considered to be an attack hit. So it doesn't have to be hit hard, doesn't have to be a spike, doesn't have to be 100 miles an hour. If a team volley over the ball, then it has been taken as an attack hit and a team can double hit that one. Does that make a bit of sense? Okay. A player, this is just continue here. A player has the right to make successive contacts at the first hit, so long as they make only one action to play the ball. It is possible, however, to whistle a catch or throw on the first hit if there are 2 different phases, i.e. a catch and then a throw. Okay. Everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Again, just watch your terminology. You just, again, people have a tendency to say you can never double touch the ball, but we know there are now cases when you can actually double touch the ball legally. So just watch your terminology if you're saying things like that. Sorry, was somebody going to ask a question? No? Great.
No.
Great. Okay. God forbid. Now, this is only theoretical to my mind. An official's mistake, right? So what if the referees are a mistake by the scorekeeper, mistake by the officials on the score sheet, right? This, and to be honest, this probably happens more than we care to admit. So what to do if there's a mistake on the score sheet, okay, or in a match? For example, a team was given incorrect information about which player was to serve. Play continued. This incorrect information was noticed at a later point in the set. Well, what happens now? Anybody want to suggest an answer?
Well, the team shouldn't be penalised if the official gave the wrong information.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else?
Should we go back and cancel all the points that happened between the check and then that time? You know, so
yeah.
It's a mess.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You both have it spot on, right? Now, just get the scenario in your head. A team asked They asked, who's the next server? This is an example. Who's the next server? The official said, player number 2. Player number 2 goes into serve, and maybe a point, 2 points, 3 points, 4 points later, suddenly realize, actually, it wasn't number 2. It should have been number 12. Okay. Is the team at fault? No, because the second referee or the scorekeeper told them player number 2 was to serve. Okay. So teams are not to blame. So is it fair to penalize them, one or both of them, to penalize either team? It's not. Now, here's a question. What about misconduct that happened during that stage or as a result of incorrect information? So the example I give there is, so the second referee, based on the score sheet, insists that player number 1 is to serve. Coach objects and shouts at the second referee and is correctly given a yellow or red card. Turns out at a later stage that the score sheet was incorrect and number 1 was not the correct server, and that therefore the coach was correct. Should the yellow red card be rescinded?
I would not rescind the card.
Everybody agree with that? Yeah, absolutely. Helen, spot on. The teams, so this is the ruling, right? The teams must revert as close to their original lineup as possible. The score reverts to the point where the wrong information was given. Timeouts and technical timeouts and sanctions remain valid. These events must be recorded on the score sheet. Okay, I know it's hopefully it shouldn't happen. It did actually happen it was either a semi-final of a European Cup match or the European Nations match. Can't remember the two teams. There was somebody like Serbia and Czech Republic, something like that. And again, halfway through the set, sorry, it's slightly different. Halfway through the set, there was a player on one of the teams. The score was something like 15-14. The scorekeeper realized that one of the players on court wasn't on the rotation sheet. Therefore, it's a slightly different one. Sorry, it is actually slightly different. I'm mixing up my stories here. I'll leave that one to the next one. Right? But this is one where the scorekeeper gave incorrect information. Is everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Yes, because the sportsman behavior
is slightly different. This is where the referee's not noticing an incorrect player on court. Getting ahead of myself. Okay. So a team forgot to replace the libero. Here's an example. A team forgot to replace the libero when they rotated to the front row in position 4. After a few points, the first referee noticed that the libero was on court illegally. What is the correct decision for the referee to make? Anybody want to guess?
Well, obviously they make the substitution.
Well, they didn't take the libero off. Yeah.
Yeah, but then they must take the libero off. Then obviously, but surely it's the second referee's duty to notice that the rotation is not correct.
Well, the rotation is correct.
Well,
who rotated into the front?
It's not.
The rotation is correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You take off player 6 and replace them with the libero. So the rotation is correct. Okay. The libero is correctly on court. It's when they get to the front court, the libero should go off and player 6 should come back on.
Did the libero stay in back row and somebody else go to front?
The libero went to front. They rotated to front row in position 4. So the libero shouldn't be there. The libero shouldn't be there. We all know that. But the team left him on. The team forgot to take him off, whatever way you want to say it. And the referee didn't notice.
Well, the referee must be colorblind then.
Stranger things have happened.
But then you can do
there's nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's
nothing.
Nothing you can do.
It's the coach's fault because it's up to the coach to make sure that the libero comes off, I would say.
Right. Yeah. So where there is a properly registered player not legally on court, this must be penalized with a point in service to the opponent. The lineup must be rectified, and the points scored by the team at fault since the moment the fault was committed, if it can be determined, must be cancelled. The opponent's points remain valid. So in that example I just give, if the libero was playing in position 4 for 3 points, then all those points are taken away from that team. The order is rectified, the correct player comes on, the libero goes off, etc. And they lose those 3 points. Simple as that. If the opponent scored any points in the meantime, they keep their points. Okay?
Yep.
It is slightly different. That's the one I was going to say there. It happened in the cup match. in the European Cup quarterfinal, semi-final. Czech and Serbia, whoever the two teams were, it was 15-14. Suddenly there was a player on court who wasn't on the rotation slip. So literally that player had to come off. They lost all 14 points they had scored while he was on court. So the score went from 15-14 to 15-0. It was the right decision, but the two referees were poorly criticized because they were deemed that, again, in the art of refereeing, they should have probably spotted it, but they didn't. But it's still a team's fault. It's the team is at fault because they put out the wrong player. In the case I gave there, they allowed their libero to stay on court incorrectly. It's the teams are at fault. Okay. Now, this is very important, right? So the two scenarios we've just talked about, they're broadly similar in that they both arose due to the official's mistake and or the officials not noticing an illegal situation. However, the responses are very different. So in the first case we talked about, the officials gave incorrect information to the players. In the second case, the officials failed to spot that the player was there incorrectly. Okay. Scenario 5, the one with the score where we gave the wrong information, neither team is penalized, which is only fair. However, in the one with the wrong player, the offending team are penalized by loss of any points while their legal player was in the front row, but their opponents retain all their points. So why are they different? What's the key difference between the two scenarios that make the different responses correct?
So in scenario 5, the official gave the information.
Yeah.
When in scenario 6, they just failed to spot an error.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of in the first one, in the first example, the officials were directly involved. They gave out information that was incorrect. In the second scenario, they failed to spot something, but it is still the team's responsibility to get it right. Okay. Does happen, so just be conscious of those two things from time to time.
So even if a second referee checks the score sheet, checks the team on court, ultimately it's the responsibility of the coach, Alan, isn't it?
Absolutely. That is probably, yeah, go ahead, DC, yeah.
That's where the people make a big mistake. They think that once the second referee has actually checked the score, the rotation, that now is the second referee's job to make sure the 6 correct players are on court. It's not.
Absolutely.
It's the coach, isn't it?
Correct. The coach is responsible for, the coach or the captain is responsible for submitting the lineup sheet and for making sure the right players are on court.
Yeah.
The second referee checks or should check, but if they fail to spot it for whatever reason, it is still the team that are penalized. Okay?
Yep.
Right. Now, just one thing, this is not to be confused with a late libero replacement, which is slightly different. And again, just this is one that keeps coming up. What should the officials do if the libero exchange takes place after the referee's whistle for serve? Actually happens a good bit. Libero replacement, according to the rules, must only take place while the ball is out of play and before the whistle for service. Apologies. A libero replacement made after the whistle for service, but before the service hit, should not be rejected. However, at the end of the rally, the game captain must be informed that this is not permitted and that repetition will be subject to delay sanction. Subsequent late libero replacements shall result in the play being interrupted immediately and the imposition of a delay sanction, etc. The team to serve next will be determined on the levy. Okay, so that's if it's a late libero exchange. And we do see it from time to time where the ball is just about to be served or the whistle for service is gone and the libero runs off and the other player comes in, etc. Okay, so that tells you what to do with that.
Sorry, just on that, Alan. The subsequent late libero replacement, do we give yellow cards or do we, like if it's a third one or fourth one and already give them warning saying, guys, you cannot do that, and they do a fourth time, do I give a red or like, because this happens so often, it's annoying me a lot of times.
It's important here that delay sanctions are a team penalty. Okay. So let me try and explain this. Supposing in the first set, and let me take an extreme example. I say to you, Thomas, you're delaying the game, you're whatever doing, and I'll issue you a warning. And then in the second set, Helen Cotter does something. She stops to tie her shoelace in the middle of a rally and stops the rally. I'll say, right, that's a warning. So that's a delay warning to the team. The next time somebody else does something different, it's a delay penalty. If somebody does something else again, it's a delayed penalty after that every time, because it's a cumulative team delay sanction. Does that make sense? So,
yes. Okay.
while I can't say there, it'll depend on if the team have been penalised for other delay sanctions. But in answer to your question, first time it's just a warning, right? After the rally, just call the captain over. You're giving them the warning. Next one will be a delay sanction, would be a delay warning. If it happens a third time, then it's a delay penalty. But that assumes that there's no other delay sanctions anywhere in the mix.
Okay.
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 Now, this is one just, this is sort of really my own views on this. What about a team that no-shows? So we all get confused about this. A team hasn't shown up or they're not there complete. So just want to bear with me for a second. So first of all, a referee must know the appointed start time of the match, i.e. 4 o'clock. If one of the teams does not show at the start time, either doesn't turn up at all or is there but is not ready to play, this is what you should do. The first referee should blow the whistle for players to enter the court. If no sign of team A, and by that I mean 6 players, the referee awards the first set to team B with a score 25-0. Okay, happy with that?
Yes.
The referee then gives team A an additional 15 minutes to appear. If they do not appear by this time, the match is awarded to team B 3-0, etc. 25-0, 25-0, 25-0. Okay, and the referee then completes the score sheet with the above result and note any relevant information in the comments, e.g. only 5 team members present for team A, no one, etc. So is everybody happy with that?
Yes.
Just to clarify this, so I'm on the stand at 4 o'clock, and then team A is not there. At 16:01, I finish the first set 25-0. Is that right?
Correct.
And then I wait 15 minutes to 16:15, and if the second team is not there, I forfeit the whole game and go home.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Now, just to be clear, now, just obviously by that, I mean, if the match before that is running late and you can't get to the stand, that's different. I'll talk about that in a second. But I'm assuming that there's no other matches on. At the appointed start time, that this is what you must do. Now, I know you're all going to say, or you're all going to think of cases where somebody has rang the captain of team, in this example, team A, and said, look, they're stuck in traffic, they're on a bus, can you give them 15, 20 minutes? You're going to have to make that call yourself, guys. I can't legislate for that, and I wouldn't legislate for it. You know, if team is there, if the match is meant to start at 4 o'clock, it should start at 4 o'clock. There is a caveat in the Volleyball Ireland rules that in exceptional circumstances they can appeal. DC, you might know the wording better. If there are exceptional circumstances for a team's no-show, they can make a case to Volleyball Ireland, and if the exceptional circumstances are proven, Volleyball Ireland can offer a replay or suggest a replay.
Yeah,
that's
correct.
Not for a referee on the day to decide. Sorry, DC.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Alan, what about if a team is late or some of them, they know they're on their way or whatever, and the other team agrees to wait 15, 30 minutes, is that acceptable?
Look, again, I said you're the referee in charge on the day, so you have to make that call. I can tell you in theory, I would not allow it.
Okay.
And personally, right, I said again, so if a team comes up to me and says, look, Alan, the other team, they're not here, I'm happy to give them a little bit of time. If it's just minutes, if they're sort of in the changing room or if they're throwing on their socks, you might sort of look the other way for a minute or two. But the problem, where I have a problem with that, Helen, is supposing they're 15, 20 minutes late and the other team say, look, we'll give them the 15 or 20 minutes and you decide to go with us. Then if there's any further problems, if they turn out to be a half an hour late and then the home team starts saying to you, oh, well, no, we shouldn't have waited. You've already agreed to wait. So it's sometimes it's better to be strict and say, look, the match was meant to be here at 4. I'm going to start it at 4. I'll give you a minute or 2 minutes leeway. After that, I just can't. And I certainly, as a referee, I certainly wouldn't ask the other team. Don't fall into that trap.
Okay.
So if team, in the example I've used there, if teammate come to you and say, Helen, look, we only have 4 players. The other 2 are coming. They won't be long. Will you ask the other team if it's okay if we start late? Don't get involved.
Right, okay.
Team A and Team B want to agree it themselves, and they both come to you and say, look, We'll be 5 or 10 minutes. Is that okay? You make that call yourself.
Yeah, okay.
Like, we wouldn't do it in the championship final. Vinny, it would be really, I'm sure will tell you, it's unheard of in international matches for things like that to start late. It just doesn't happen. You don't turn into the Premiership to watch Liverpool and Leeds, and somebody says, well, some of the Liverpool lads are still only getting in, give them 5 or 10 minutes. Doesn't happen.
Sorry, Alan, just in case, say we are there at 4 o'clock and suddenly the lights goes off, boom, the whole hall is dark, and we have to wait 10 more minutes for the light to come back on. Is that okay, or like
there's
how do
nothing
you
you
handle
do. You
this?
can't. The referee. Okay, can I come back to that, Thomas, in a minute? I have that
Okay.
scenario sort of in a minute, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So this example is only when everything is perfect. There's nothing like that, right? Just team hasn't showed up. Now, this is sort of what you're getting to, Thomas.
Yeah.
Court is not available. Now, the example I've used is an earlier match, right? An early match running late. So referee arrives at a venue to referee a match that is due to start at 4 o'clock. However, an earlier match is ongoing, or some other event is still going on and the court is not free, or in your case, there's no lights or there's no net up. Maybe that's another example. The away team, now, this is as a referee, you're put in the middle here. If the away team says to the referee, we have to get a train, or some other reason they say they don't want to stay and play the match at a later hour, and they want to claim a walkover, can they? No, they can't. As a referee, you cannot start the match until the court is available, right? So if there's another match going on, you can't sort of stand over one side and say, well, we'll do the toss now, etc., etc. A referee can only start their business from the time the court is free. You then have to give teams warm-up time, and then they can start it. So if there's another match going on and another team, the away team say, well, we're not waiting, that's fine, that's their business, but you cannot give a walkover to them because there's something else going on the court.
That's strange, because what you can have is, for instance, you show up to a hall and they double booked. And the home team is like, oh, sorry, we double booked. And the away team comes in and they're like, we want to play, but then hall is booked the whole day. So who sorts this out? Commission?
Okay, so again, as a referee, that is not my problem. All I can say is, honestly, I cannot start the match, guys, because there is no court available to play. So as a referee, I can't give a walkover to anyone. All I can say to both teams is, I can't give a walkover to anyone. I can't give it to the home team or the away team. All I can say is, look, guys, you both need to write into Volleyball Ireland now. The away team say that you turned up at 6 o'clock for your match. There was no court available. The home team will give their reasons for the double booking. We let somebody else decide it. But me as a referee, I cannot adjudicate on that.
Okay.
Alan, the scenario you say there about obviously the court not being available at exactly 4 o'clock, or maybe 15 minutes or a half an hour after that, and the away team would say we have to get a train.
Yeah.
Would you actually then, I mean, obviously if they would come, say at 4:30 to start a game, or if the game didn't start until 4:30, and they would assume that their train was at 7, just say, for hypothetically speaking, would you actually get to start the game or not? Because can you say, okay, if it's starting at 4:30, okay, it might be a quick game, you might still get your train. If they say, no, we don't want to chance it. Do you know what I'm saying here? That's quite an awkward one.
It is a very awkward one. And that's why, as a referee, I still think you're better to say, sorry, guys, in the event of a late match, DC, the next action slide sort of deals with this in some cases. Now, again, every referee is going to have to make their own call here. I know in a lot of cases, DC, you'll be refereeing in your own venue, so it'll be your own teams or teams from your own club that are impacted. So you may have a sense that you want to stay and help. I'm slightly different. I come in from outside. I'll be there at 4 o'clock. Question is, how long am I going to stay there to facilitate, because there's no court available? So, DC, we keep that question in mind. So these are just the points. The referee can only start the match when the court is available for play. So simply put, the referee cannot award a walkover if the court is not available. When the court does become a fault, I've said this, can only follow protocol and start a normal warm-up and start the match late. If one team either cannot or does not wish to stay to play the match, the referee must complete the same procedure as for a no-show on the previous slide and award the match to the team that are there
Oh.
and are prepared to play.
All right.
The referee should advise the away team, in this example, that they do, of course, have a right to protest the result with Volleyball Ireland, at which stage competitions will adjudicate on the protest.
Okay.
So it's,
Okay.
it's sort of, and I actually think I give that, yeah, here you go. Presumably, one would be sympathetic to a team traveling from a long way away and have to catch a 6 o'clock train home. If the start of the match is delayed by an hour or more, it might be unreasonable for them to stay and to risk missing the train. You'd be less sympathetic of a team that refused to stay to play because it was a big footy match on TV. What I'm saying, DC, is that shouldn't be the referee's call to assess the circumstances and adjudicate on it. The referee can only deal with the facts in front of them on the day. Okay? Now,
Okay.
I don't know if that answers your question, DC. Again, from my perspective, I'll obviously be sympathetic if I get there to a hall and there's a match before me that's in set 5. Absolutely, I'll stay and we'll start the match late if both teams are agreeable to it. If, however, I get there and the match before it is still going on, but for whatever reason, to Thomas's point that the hall was double booked and it's only in set 1, we'll say, I will say, guys, I'm here for a 4 o'clock match. It's not happening. I'm off. And I will remove myself from the situation. It's not ideal, but otherwise, I think a referee can sometimes end up trying to adjudicate between what you're saying. A team have to go and get to a train. We've sympathy for. The home team are saying, oh yeah, well, they agreed to stay and play, so therefore we're going to carry on with the match regardless. You've all this sort of nonsense about, well, can we play but not call timeouts and keep the game going? These are things that referees shouldn't have to deal with. I know, I'm sure everybody has their own opinion on this, and I actually asked this ourselves. This is the slide. What about the referee themselves if a match is delayed? The match isn't going to start at the appointed time of 4 o'clock. How long should the referee have to wait before saying that that's it, I'm off home? I have no answer for you. 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour. As I said, I know you guys are typically in the hall from dawn to dusk anyway, or you're playing the next match, or you're playing the earlier match, that type of thing. As an outside referee coming in, I'll be quite strict, guys. If I don't think the match is going to kick off, if the match is delayed for other than sort of 30 minutes, I'll just give you that. I'm not going to hang around. Tough. You can get another referee to referee the match. I know it might sound harsh, and I won't put it in black and white. Maybe there's times I will be more lenient, but you just end up then as a referee having to trying to adjudicate on things that you shouldn't have to adjudicate on. The rights or the wrongs of the hall being double booked, caretaker wasn't there with keys, etc., etc. So as a referee, all you can do is make the call yourself on the day. There's no rules to help you on that one. Just do what seems right. I would avoid asking teams' opinions, because they'll all, you'll end up with something stupid like they'll say to it yes, and then they'll turn around and say, oh, well, they didn't really want it to go ahead. You make the call and stick with it. Now, I don't know, does that help answer the question?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Did I answer it? Does
Yeah.
anybody else want to throw in a comment there?
Can I ask something more? Because before I saw in the slide a situation when 5 team players are appearing on the court from the home team, let's say, and the second team is not appearing at all. What if we have 2 incomplete teams at the start of the match?
It's okay. It's actually a very good question, and I would put that into the space of, you'll sort of say 4 o'clock. There's no teams here to play the match. I'm off home.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would, because otherwise, then again, just think this through logically. So it's not ideal. You can't start the match because there's no teams present.
Exactly.
If you decide to wait, then what happens when a player from Team A arrives and suddenly they are now complete, and they're saying to you, referee, you have to start the match now. Suddenly then you, 10 minutes late, 15 minutes late, you're then trying to favor them by starting the match because their player got there a little bit quicker. So that's where I think if I got there and both teams aren't sort of there, are going to be, again, I'm not saying because they're not in the loo, if somebody's in the loo or they're in the changing room, etc., etc., of course you can give them a minute or two. But if both teams said to me, well, we only have 5 players, we should have another player here at the end of the warm-up, fine. But if they're not there, I would just say, neither team present, walk home.
Yeah.
But the score sheet will be filled out at that stage, you
Yes.
assume, from the home team. So what would you put on the score sheet? Would you actually put a comment to say neither team complete at starting time or
Yeah.
something like that?
I
Simple
think
as
you
that,
are
yeah.
not filling the score sheet, yeah, because match didn't start actually.
But you'd have the list of names probably from the home team, because you assume they would have the score sheet filled in with all the headers and stuff like that, but you wouldn't actually physically start a game.
Yeah.
But
So
you could, yeah.
in my
So,
And they
all you can
probably
do-
and they
all you can do-
probably will have more than 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 players on the list. They just won't be in the hall.
Correct. So all you can do is note that in the comments and say, look, neither team had a complete team.
Yeah.
Neither Team A nor
At
Team B had a
starting
complete
time.
team. 4 o'clock. I gave them 2 or 3 minutes. Still not complete. Match never. No, you can't say match abandoned because it never started. But just tell them that your tea is on the table and you went home.
So, Alan, who gets the score sheet, the 4 pieces, and who submits it to the office?
Oh, well, you would take a photo or take a copy of it and send it in. I would leave the score sheet there because again, there's no captain's probably going to sign it, Pam. So there's nothing you can do with that. Now, if they decide to play it later with another referee, they could. But for the 4 o'clock match, which I was there for, there was no teams present, so I can't do that match. If the teams want to reschedule it for 5 o'clock and get another referee and they agree to it, fine, they can submit that score sheet themselves.
And you wouldn't have to wait for your 5 minutes or your 15 minutes in case either team had a complete team by 15 minutes after.
I don't believe so, DC, because you're only given team, in the example I gave, you're given the second team the opportunity to arrive. But you can't give the first set to anyone because neither team are present.
But that's what I'm saying. Would you be expected to wait your 15 minutes to see if any? No.
No, sorry, DC, if you want to be a nice person and if you know they're sort of around the corner, or if you know that they went over to McDonald's after the last match and they're walking back, of course you can be a little bit generous if you want. Again, just to be clear, I'm not saying that you have to blow the whistle at 4:01 and that's it, you're out of there. But in the absence of definite information, I would be reluctant to hang around too long, where neither team is.
I think you would have to wait your 5 minutes anyway, Al.
What 5 minutes?
The 5 minutes, because if one team was complete at the end of the 5 minutes.
No.
15 minutes.
15 minutes, though, DC.
I would disagree. When you, as a referee, you stand up on the court at 4 o'clock and blow your whistle. Right now, neither team is there for that. So you can't then sort of move into the second phase, which is giving them 15 minutes for the team to arrive.
No. But if either of them are on court, when you're up on the stand, and if either team appears on court within the first 5 minutes.
No, I don't see why you're giving them 5 minutes.
Because after 5 minutes, you award the first set to
15 minutes.
No. Your award was at a minute past 6. So.
Oh yes, sorry. Yeah, you're right. I have a senior moment there. Sorry, you're right.
He's right.
Oh, God. Can you write that down?
He's recorded at DC. He'll play.
I see that. I can hear. I can hear the giggle from here.
Anyway, look, what seldom is wonderful. How many years have I made? As I said, guys, sorry. Look, don't get hooked up on this and don't start sort of disqualifying teams and just keep doing what sort of normally happens. Typically what happens is there's a match before running late. Typically 1 or 2 players are running late, which is different. You as a referee have to do what you think is right on the day, right? Just remember what I said there is sort of the rules and should be your fallback position. If you're not comfortable, if someone says to you, look, we're going to leave it and we play the match in an hour, you're not obliged to stay for that hour. You were contracted to do a match at 4 o'clock. If it's not taking place at 4 o'clock, I don't want to know about it, guys. I'm gone. Quite entitled to do that. If you want to stay till the hour and do the match, you can make your decision to do that. But just try to avoid getting into positions that you have to then decide that because somebody has to go and catch their train, what do I do then? That's when it gets really messy.
Yeah, and officials should be before the match, half an hour before the match. So
correct.
They have time to warm up, to do everything. Match starts at 4 o'clock, and that's it.
Absolutely. Okay. Now, this is just again, we're going through this. So uniforms, this is another contentious one, not so much for referees, but players' uniforms, right? Now, again, there's a little bit of disconnect here sometimes. The FIVB rules of the game simply state the following in relation to players' uniforms. The color and design for the jerseys must be uniform for the team, except for libero. Players must wear uniform jerseys and shorts with jerseys numbered front and back from 1 to 20. The libero must also be numbered front and back, but in contrasting colors to the rest of the team's jerseys. Okay. This is Volleyball Ireland instructions to players' uniforms. So just before we get on to this, I personally will not allow somebody to play unless they're in the team jerseys. Jerseys must be the same. I forget the libero bit for the minute. If the 5 or 6 players don't have a correct jersey, they don't play. I don't think we should give in on that personally. Shorts is different. Shorts, they can play in the correct me, DC, if I'm wrong. They can play, they have to be the same color shorts, but they can be different styles or different makes, for want of a better word. Am I right?
I think for Premier, they're supposed to be the same. But for other divisions, they are, as you say, the same color or relatively the same style.
Okay. But certainly,
I'm not sure it's ever enforced rigorously anyway.
Certainly for jerseys, at a minimum, they have to be the same.
Oh yeah.
I would keep that. Okay. Sorry, missed a bit there. So this is relation to under jerseys, under whatever you call it. A player is permitted to wear skin-tight underclothing under their jerseys with the permission of the match referee. There must be uniformity between players of the same team, i.e. underclothing tops worn by players of Team A must all be the same colour and must not deviate significantly in style or design of the main team jerseys. Black, white or neutral colours should be selected. A little bit subjective, some of that, but anyway. Leggings or full legging coverings are not permitted except with prior clearance from Volleyball Ireland referees. A medical certificate stating that the player requires leg coverage must be sent to referees commission in advance and also retained to show to match referee by the team captain and coach. Finally, players may wear compression pads. These are padded injury protection at any stage. Okay. Now, I know it's a little bit subjective, some of that. There's a fine line between a compression pad and an actual legging. However, that's the wording that we have to work with. So compression pads, they can be for elbow pads or knee pads, whatever, ankle braces, I presume that's not covered. But they have to be separate pads. They cannot be part of underclothing. Okay? Happy?
But they can actually look like, I mean, compression pads now can be full-length arm ones or full-length leg ones.
Correct, but they can't be actually underwear for one. Excuse my English. They can't be underwear. You know what I mean? They can't be like.
They can't be leggings or like.
They can't be leggings. So from afar,
it has to be a separate compression pad going from like the shoulder to the elbow or to the wrist or from on. It can be on one arm or 2 arms, and the same with the legs. Some of the compression ones on the legs now are coming. Now they look like they are full. They look like leggings underneath, and they will tell you that now if you want to be a daredevil and investigate where they start and end, that's up to you. But some of them are looking like they're full length ones now.
Look, guys, as I said, don't get hooked up on it. But again, I will be strict on uniforms. I'm very strict on jerseys, shorts, and a minimum they have to be the same color. Absolutely. In terms of Under Armours, again, that's only a new one about that they could wear under sleeves, but certainly leggings are not allowed unless they have permission. They can wear compression pads. Typically, you'll see some liberos wear which go from their sort of shoulders down to their wrists, but it's a separate compression pad, so that's allowed. Okay. And
will we be informed if they're actually allowed to wear leggings, Al? Or is it
referees?
Yeah.
No, well, sorry, the team, it says it there. A medical certificate stating that the player requires and should also be retained to show to match referee by the team captain.
All right. Okay. Okay.
That answer it?
Yeah.
Okay, referees' uniforms, again, look, we shouldn't have to say this. We all know what it is. The white BAI polo shirt or sweatshirt, navy blue trousers, not jeans, not chinos, not cords, not tracksuit bottoms, shoes predominantly white, socks white predominantly. Because the only thing I'd say here is that we're very strict on players wearing approved kit. It is only right and proper, therefore, and compulsory for us all to look the part. And again, guys, if you look the part and act the part, you'll get an awful lot more respect and less queries than somebody who looks half like a referee. Okay? I'm just going to keep, these are probably things you all know, guys. So I said, forgive me if I'm stating the obvious. Who can sit on the bench? Okay? In relation to the compositions of teams, the VAI rules only allow for a team to comprise of a maximum of 12 players. Before the match, now, this may be slightly different now because of the new rules. Before the match, all players must present a registration card and our confirmation from the VAA that they are appropriately registered. DC, am I right now that there is sort of going to be a generic?
Before what happens now is that the teams are supposed to hand in a laminated sheet with all the printed reg cards on them. And they're also supposed to hand in a team list so the scorekeeper can fill it up. So not everybody is actually touching the score sheet.
Okay. Okay, so if everybody got that. But principle of it is anybody who on it, you have to check that they're appropriately registered.
Alan, sorry,
yes.
It's something like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Is that an actual one, Vinny, or just some?
Yeah, this is the one we're using this year, yeah.
Brilliant.
And Vinny, do you have your jersey number like on that, or are you using a separate sheet for each match then?
No, we have our jersey number, yeah. But what we do is like if that changes, then we have to do another one. But in my team, like we can have the jersey number because it's not going to change. So yeah.
But is your jersey number on that laminated sheet, Vinny?
No, that's not.
Okay. That's what I was asking. Okay.
No, sorry, Denise.
Jerry White was suggesting that the jersey number would be included in that, and I said no because it might change from week to week.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now this is one again. Some of you are going to say, "Jesus, Alan, you're getting very strict in your old age." Players who can sit on the bench. Players must be in uniform and must take part in the pre-match announcements and protocol. In other words, registered players must be tugged out to play to be allowed to remain on the bench as a player. And if players are in normal casual clothing, they will not be considered as players and will not be allowed to sit on the bench. Now, some of you might have a different view on this. I know typically sometimes what teams do is if a player is injured, they'll come along in crutches maybe, or they'll be in jeans or whatever, and they go and sit on the bench. And their argument is, I'm a registered player, I can sit on the bench. My argument is tough. You might be registered as a player, but you weren't tugged out to play, and therefore you don't sit on the bench. That's my opinion. It's not written down. Sorry, again, just bear in mind the rules, and Vinny, hopefully you might agree on this. This is not something an international referee that the rules of the game is designed to cover. Why? Because nobody sits on the bench unless they're actually a player and unless they're properly tugged out. You don't get somebody's grandmother coming to sit on when Poland are playing Czech Republic, their grandmother isn't sitting on the bench, etc. This is a local thing in Ireland where typically somebody would sit on the bench who's not registered. As officials, we need to control the bench. Very important. That's why I'm very strict on it. They can sit behind the bench, but if they're not tugged out to play, they don't sit on the bench. That's my opinion. I'll leave it to you guys what you do on your.
Tugged out means they have their jersey on them or possibly tracksuit bottoms.
Well, if you think of it, Denise, for the announcements and the protocol,
they have to have their jersey.
Correct. They have to have their jersey on. They have to take off their tracksuit bottoms. So again, yes, to me, they have to do that. If they can't do that, they're not taking part in the announcements and the protocol. Therefore, they're not considered part of the team on the day. Harsh, I know they might have driven up from wherever, but they're either a player or they're not. Okay, this is a little one, probably doesn't come up too often. Apart from players, a team can have up to 3 bench personnel: coach, assistant coach, and trainer or physio. And again, all bench personnel must be in possession of bench personnel registration cards as per VAI competition rules. It is also possible to have a medical doctor on the bench, but they must have previously obtained VAI accreditation. Okay. Again, just if somebody's wondering why am I so strict or so serious about the bench? To me, a lot of the problems that occur in a match come from the bench, in the sense of, typically, I don't mind players being emotional and jumping up and down and things. They're active, they're moving around. But when players on the bench or people sitting on the bench see something go wrong, they typically stand up, throw their arms in the air, they make a big kerfuffle, and that then is contagious across the team. So if you're working with me, you're my second referee, the first thing I would say to you is, you keep that bench sitting down, no matter what. If one of them gets their arse off the bench, you get them back down in it. So again, Vinny, I don't know if this has been drilled into you in the international word, control the benches as a second referee.
Yep, that was talked a lot about this, like coaches and everybody on the bench, like we need to control them and make sure like nothing started, because once we let them start, like then it's very hard to stop them.
Yeah, agree.
Okay, great. Now, guys, believe it or not, that is the course. That's everything done. It's in an ideal world. It's not ideal. I know it's not ideal, because again, this type of thing is great when there's interaction and we can sort of all chat about different cases. So just what time are we at? It's 8:50 now, right? Now, is there anybody want to come up with either a question or scenario that something happened in a match that they weren't sure what to do, etc., etc.? Anybody want to come up with a case?
I have a question regarding Hull. When Hull is very cold during the winter months.
That's exactly what I'm going to ask.
So you come into the hall and it's absolutely freezing. And how do you judge if you can allow them to proceed with everybody's safety in mind, or can you cancel it? And do you, like, I don't know, like what do you do?
Look, again, there is a rule in the FIVB rules of the game that the matches cannot take place if it's under a certain temperature. Off the top of my head, I don't know what that temperature is.
I think it's 18 degrees. I think.
There you go. There's the answer. Now, again, are you going to enforce that rule? If you can, you're entitled to it, but I've never seen it happen, believe it or not. It would want to be particularly bad. There would want to be frost on the floor or frost around, and in which case it's dangerous, and absolutely I wouldn't allow it then. The fact it's just cold, you'd want to be quite sure your facts that it's cold enough.
Okay.
I know years ago there was a women's European qualifying tournament out in DCU, if I believe, and the CEV sent over a technical delegate who was very diligent and all that. Every morning, every day went over and checked the thermometer, and it wasn't until the last day that Denise Talon told him that the thermometer wasn't actually working. So he was debating it a few times. But yeah, look, guys, that's one you're going to have to make a call yourself.
And I think in that scenario, I think that's where you'll have to use your discretion, because quite often for player safety, you actually may have to allow them to wear an undergarment once they're all the same color, just because it's absolutely Baltic in some of the halls.
Mm-hmm.
From a safety point of view, I'm saying you would do it from that point of view.
Just again, to be clear, guys, everything we talk about, really on the day, you are in charge. For that 2-hour period, you're in charge, and you have to make what you consider to be the best decision. If there's any question about safety, my advice to you is doesn't go ahead. If there's water on the court, sometimes you'll see a drip. Sometimes in the winter, there'll be a drip from the ceiling. There'll be water on the court. To me, that's a no-no. You can't do that. You can't play a match properly or safely with water on the court. It's different if somebody spills a bottle of water. That's slightly different. You have to take 5 minutes out, mop it up, dry it, do the best you can, etc. But if there's a constant drip and it's raining outside, it's not safe to go ahead. But you as a referee have to have that. You have the power to make that decision on the day.
Question.
Yes.
If in that case, like say there's a leak in the hall or something like that, and you decide the match can't go ahead, are their team penalised, or does it go back to competitions?
It has to go back to competition, Georgina. You cannot keep either team, even if it's 2-0 up, 24-2 up. You cannot award the match to anyone. You just have to write in the score sheet, match abandoned. Now, if there's an option to, hypothetically, would there be an option to move to another court in the same venue? Not many calls have that, but maybe if it was ALSA or DCU, you could, in theory, move the match to another court with a 15 or 20-minute delay. That's fine. That's option. Most clubs wouldn't have that option, I suspect. In which case, you just have to say match abandoned. It will be similar to Thomas's question. If the lights go out, if they're gone for 5 or 10 minutes, fine. Restart the match after that. But if they're gone for the day, then there's nothing you can do. Match abandoned.
Lovely, thank you.
There used to be a hall in Cork that the lights used to go dim. This is no joke. At 5 o'clock in the evening, the lights would dim because the local farmer was milking the cows.
Yeah,
and it was the same thing. So, where? Carrick-na-Bar. You have to finish the match before 5 o'clock or before the cows got milked, one or the other.
Yeah.
Alan, was there not a time frame of if you had to change halls within an hour or 2 hours or something like that?
The rules do cover it. If you can start the match in the same venue, but in a different court, the match will just continue as is. I'm fairly sure that's what it is. If it's beyond an hour, I think the match has to start again.
If you have to move to a different venue totally.
Correct. It has to. I think it has to start again.
I don't know. It's down somewhere. I don't know. I can't remember.
Now, again, the question is, as a referee, and I'm trying to think of a scenario. Supposing somebody said DCU, the matches can't continue. Will we all go to ALSA and play it? So, are the two teams prepared to move to ALSA to play it? Is the referee and the officials prepared to move to ALSA to play the match? It's a big question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It rarely happens.
I don't know. And again, as a referee, there is that is a difficult one. If it was a big match and you wanted to be the nice guy, of course, and both teams happy to do it, fine. But as a referee, I wouldn't ask both teams, are they prepared to do it?
Okay.
Don't get involved in it. Okay. Any other questions, guys? Keep them coming.
So in case we start the match and for some reason we have to stop it and the match cannot be started again, there is no not penalty, there is no reward to one team or the other, just match is abandoned and it has to start another day, yeah?
Correct. Now, no, Volleyball Ireland, I would say Volleyball Ireland competitions have to make that call, right? So, and again, it's the circumstances of what happened, right? So supposing, let me, a few examples, supposing just the rain, there's a leak in the roof. Exactly. As a referee, I'm down, I stop the match. If it can't be started safely, then I'll just abandon the match and I would say to both teams, no result is going in from this match. You have to write into competitions or Volleyball Ireland and explain the circumstances. At that stage, Volleyball Ireland will decide if one team is at fault. Unlikely that they can do that, in which case I suspect they'll just say the match will have to be replayed. But if there was a reason that the home team were at fault, or one of the teams were at fault for not having a net, supposing that's the reason there's no net, right? Stupid example. Then the home team are responsible for that. So they would be penalized presumably for not having a net to play.
That happened 2 years ago.
Say again, did it?
That happened 2 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Galway.
No net.
They had no net.
Interesting. So again, look, there are always questions that come up that referees, it's not covered by the rules. Don't feel you have to have a piece of paper to tell you what to do. Do what you think is right. And if right could easily be saying, look guys, sorry, match is stopped. I'm going to head home. Both right into Volleyball Ireland on it. Let them make the call on it. Don't put yourself into a position of you having to decide what to do if there's no net, if there's a leak in the roof. It's a little bit above your pay grade. Do the best you can. Keep safety in mind, and always defer back to Volleyball Ireland if you have to. Any other questions?
And if you're in any doubt when you turn up to any venue and you have any query, ring Alan.
I have another
But you need his
question.
phone number.
€5 a minute, 1,850 help, €5 a minute. Any other scenarios? What typically causes people problem? Is it the discipline side of things? Is it the play itself? Is it anybody?
Something
I have
unexpected.
another question.
Sorry,
No.
for me, it's like pre-match protocol. The teams usually don't know what they're supposed to be doing, and I'm showing them what they're doing, especially in the lower leagues, and they don't know where to stand and where to come on court and what to do. It's a bit frustrating sometimes.
Okay. Again, so guys, as referees, it's just important you help people through these things. It's part of it is a learning process, right? I said, as referees, we're probably familiar with it. Some teams won't be. Just talk them through it, right? You'll find. I said again, I do it the whole time. I've been talking to them. Okay, guys, line up. Everybody line up. Come on, line up. Number 6, get back in line there. We're walking. Blow the whistle. We're walking, guys. We're walking. Turn. Keep talking to them. Keep telling them what to do. They learn eventually. I know it's not ideal, but one of these days they'll get to a cup final when it'll really be important. I know on a Sunday morning, 10 o'clock in a hall, probably nobody there, but Regina, those will tell you championship final in UCD, 500 people watching you. They'll get it right then. Anything else? Discipline is okay. Rotation's okay.
Yeah.
I have another question. What happens when the first referee isn't able to continue his job? Maybe if he has to leave for an important family event, or he is crying because the players aren't that nice to him or something. Is it able to switch the first referee during the match?
In answer to your question, yes, the second referee can take over the duties of the first referee. Again, it doesn't sound sorry. Certainly, if the referee becomes injured or incapacitated or sick, then absolutely the second referee will replace the first referee. Now, that assumes they have the required grade to step up to do you know what I mean? That they have the required grade to referee at that level. And ideally, then you would ask maybe the assistant scorekeeper, if there isn't anyone else, to step up to replace the second referee. Could you referee on the match on your own? I wouldn't have a problem with it. It shouldn't happen. But there are times when I've had to referee a match because there is no second referee there. Again, what's the alternative? The alternative is you go home. I wouldn't advocate it. I wouldn't be encouraging it. But if it was my last option, I would probably be happy to referee by myself.
Okay, thank you.
And after that, you have to wait for the VI decision if that match is valid or not.
Yes.
Which one for the VAR?
I had such a situation because I had to referee match ourselves only, myself, sorry, and actually I was waiting for the decision and it was negative. I don't know what was the reason because none of the team was complaining, but VI said no.
Okay. Again, look, I'm surprised. If it was organized with one referee, absolutely, I would get that. But if a referee became incapacitated and there was simply no one there to replace it, I would have thought you don't have any option.
Just the second referee didn't come.
Okay.
It was under, unexpected circumstances.
It is a different situation there, Alan. So the home team has organized the 2 referees, and one of the referees didn't show. And then it was for VI to decide, okay, what's the reason? So it's a long story. It's not that simple. I understand what Carlotta's questions was if a referee becomes ill, like happened to me, like in Kilkenny 3 years ago. I was refereeing a match and I was just very ill. And then I had to just leave the stand, and then the second referee went up, and then Gronia took the second referee's position there. So it's a different situation.
Okay, then it's simply not a second referee not turning up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Okay. Any other issues causing anybody grief?
I mentioned that in the other meeting. This is something what happened to me. There were 6 players. These were Division 1 women. And one of the girls suddenly got something, monthly problem, suddenly. and she asked if she can wear the leggings. And I let her do this, and I let her in the court. Is that okay? Because that was actually unexpected. You couldn't foresee that, and they didn't have the legal substitution.
Okay. Again, as a referee, you make the call and be happy with your call on the day, right? I know what I get the impression of, and I know what you're saying. Absolutely, I think it was the right thing to do. If you ask me, would I allow people to play in tracksuits? I'm going to give you the answer no. But in an emergency circumstances, you made a call, fair dues to you. It's the right thing to do. Just always remember, as a referee, we're all liable to somebody writing into Volleyball Ireland and say, Alan did something, he allowed somebody to play on Sunday, whatever it is, shouldn't have happened. Volleyball Ireland might agree and say, Alan, you shouldn't have allowed that. That's fine. I'll accept that. That's I made a call in the best one. Slavik, you obviously made a call, your best decision on the day. That's fine. Be happy with it. If somebody else looks at it and says, yeah, well, I wouldn't have done that. Great. But it doesn't mean you did something wrong on the day. It's just they don't agree with, they say they would have done something different. So you can't worry about what other people will do. Am I making sense that, look, anybody can protest anything to the Volleyball Ireland, to the referees, competitions, but don't let that worry you. It is what it is. It'll go to the appeals committee. Somebody will decide. Somebody will come back and say, Alan, you shouldn't have done that. That's fine. Yeah, great, lovely.
If you use a bit of common sense, you know,
yeah,
which is not that common.
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, bottom line is, I said, I know we're there to keep the play going. You know, everything I've talked about is sort of in an ideal world. You know, at minute past 4, you blow your whistle, etc., etc. In the real world, you have to be a little bit more accommodating, but you should know the starting point. Know that at start time you should be doing this. If you want to allow a little bit of leeway, use your experience, use your common sense, as Ellen said, but know where you're starting from.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Guys, I said seriously, guys, there's huge information on the FIVB website. All those documents are there. It's worth reading them from time to time. Even every so often, you'll see something you didn't realize. I presume you all still play. Look at YouTube. I don't know if you all use YouTube for volleyball clips and videos. There's great bits on refereeing. If you're interested in it, I don't know if it'll translate, if it'll come across. I'm going to just bear me a second. I'll see does this work. The feed mightn't be great. That's the only problem. And these are red and yellow cards in volleyball. I don't think Vinny's involved. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, just bear me a second. Okay, so I'm going to play these through, right? I just want your opinion in a minute, but more on the officials' involvement, on how they look and react. Sorry. Can you see that? Everybody see that?
Yeah.
It's a little bit. It's a little bit start stop, is it?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit start stop. Sorry. But now again, just what impresses me about that is that the referee. Oh, sorry, it's buffering a bit. The referee is just so, you know, natural about it, normal about it. It's not a big deal, but here's a red card for you. Right, so here's another one. Now what's the player? Watch what she does.
Oh yeah, I saw that, yeah.
So again, what's the referee? I think the referee's actions, it's not a big deal, but come here, here's a red card for you. Nearly, you know, it's things like that, right? As a referee, we have to stop that. This one is a little bit obvious. Right? You give him a red card anyway, but you can't do what he's doing there. You cannot do that type of gesticulation to the other team. But again, the referee is just out with his card. No big deal. This one, I think this one is a little bit harsh. I don't think she does anything too wrong, but she obviously just either says something. She's obviously confused by it. Now this is obviously an Italian, or this is like the good old days, Helen, huh?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking Dundrum, Aer Lingus.
There you go.
Some things never change. Look at that through the net. Where's
Yeah.
Alan and David.
Dave Dooley.
But what impresses me is the referee. He's not flustered. He's not upset. He's not, he's just, it's part of the game. There's another one again. What can't you do? Like anything like that has to be penalized. And the players know it. Players know they're wrong immediately. They still do it, but you have to just penalize them. Little smirk on his face, but he knows he's wrong. Again, this player, he's just standing staring, but he's staring at the opponents in an unsportsmanlike manner. And this guy gets him back. So again, you have to control that type of situation. They're like big babies, really, aren't they?
And mainly they are a man.
Yeah. Hold on.
Don't say that.
But interestingly, you're absolutely spot on. You are actually right on that one. With men, it's the testosterone is on display, so it's very important that they seem to win everything.
If you do look back on YouTube on the Cuban team playing on the 90s and 2000, you're going to see like the women can be like as bad as the men.
Yes.
But anyway, look, as I said, guys, we don't have to look at them. But what the big thing there, right, is really what impresses me is the referee's reaction, right? Because it's just so normal. It's natural. It's not a big deal. It's not a, geez, we have to stop the match, get everybody, it's just normal. Player number 6, come to me. There's a red card for you. That's it. Get on. And they get on with it. No arguments. And always be careful on that. If you give a card and they continue to argue, follow it up with another card immediately. Absolutely. Okay. So look, as I said, guys, don't feel that you have to go and look for trouble, look for things like that to do. You don't need to. But if you see it, you have to penalize it.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions now before we call the night? 9 o'clock. Nice timing. Any other questions? Last chance. Okay, listen, guys. Look, guys, can I just say one thing? It's important that we as referees sort of stick together and work together, etc., etc. I know it's volleyball isn't about referees, but if you come across a situation that you're unsure on that happened in a match, email one of us, email Vinny, email me, email Helen or DC or anybody on this call, and just say, look, guys, something happened in a match. What do you think? This is what I did. Do you think I should have? Do you think I shouldn't have? It's the only way we should never be afraid to say, Jesus, do you know what? I made a mistake. I allowed a player to play in tracksuit leggings or whatever, or I permitted something. Don't be afraid to say that. Somebody will give you an opinion. Here's something else you could have done. So don't keep it to yourself. Don't think these are my problems. Guarantee you, any problems you've come up with, one or two of us who are a bit older in the tooth have already come across multiple times. So don't be afraid to contact others and ask. Any other questions, or will we call it a night, guys?
Yeah.
Good night.
Listen, guys, have a good night, and thank you for joining. And you'll get my email there if you want it from the office, and keep in touch. Okay. Stay home, guys.
Cheers. Thanks a lot, lads.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks, Alan. Thank you.
Bye.